What is up, YouTube? What is up, family? We have a Patreon request. We got Valerian and the history of French science fiction. Now, this nerd, I guess he's the nerd. So it's the history of French science fiction. Okay, let's go. Let's check it out.
Hey guys, I'm Mike, and if you're like most Americans, you're probably not that familiar with Valerian, but
Nope, definitely not.
the upcoming movie is based on one of the most famous and influential comics ever to come out of France. Like a lot of French sci-fi, it's unique, stylish, and definitely not afraid to experiment. From Jules Verne's science adventure novels to those damn dirty apes, French sci-fi is almost its own subgenre. So today we're gonna take you through the surprisingly influential history of French science fiction. But before we start, I gotta warn you guys, I don't speak a word of French, so my pronunciation might be a little bit off.
I'll hook you up. I'll hook you up with some pronunciation. Yeah, right, like I'm an expert or something.
But I'm gonna try my best. Anyway, let's get started with Jules Verne. This French author is one of the founding fathers of science fiction, even though he never liked the term. Between 1863 and 1905, he wrote a series of novels called The Extraordinary Voyages. He wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, great movie.
And Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Never seen that one.
But his most important book might be From the Earth to the Moon, published over a century before the Apollo 11 landing. Granted, he thought we'd get to the moon using a cannon instead of rockets, but that
is fantastic.
11 landing. Granted, he thought we'd get to the moon using a cannon.
Could you imagine? Just shooting a cannon at the moon, and that's how you get there. Can you imagine that thought actually came out of somebody's head? How could we get to the moon? We'll shoot somebody through a cannon. I can't even believe I just heard that.
Instead of rockets, but that's neither here nor there. Mostly remembered for the film adaptation it inspired. A Trip to the Moon was directed by a French filmmaker, Georges Méliès, in 1902, and it's arguably the very first science fiction film. It looks more like a trippy music video than a modern sci-fi movie, but its innovative special effects and far-out premise paved the way for what we have today. Verne's stories all have an optimistic utopian vibe. They're steampunk adventures in a world that celebrates science, and Verne's success kicked off a French sci-fi boom. Unfortunately, the bright future these authors imagined never came to be. 2 world wars took a heavy toll on France. It's hard to be optimistic about new technology when you're so up close and personal with the devastation it can cause. So science fiction fell out of fashion for a while, just as it underwent a golden age in America. The stories that were produced in France were pretty cynical, like Pierre Boules's 1963 novel,
Pierre Boules's
Monkey Planet. Yup, Planet of the Apes was a French novel first.
It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
But the movie's famous ending came from Rod Serling, an American writer. Woo! The experimental filmmakers of the French New Wave had a little more success with science fiction. Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville is probably the most famous example. It's a film noir mixed with a cyberpunk dystopia, and it had a huge influence on later movies. There wouldn't be a Blade Runner without Alphaville. As the wars faded into the past, a new generation of sci-fi creators emerged in France, but they weren't interested in the space race and a bright future. Instead, they wrote about the post-war changes in society and politics, about human identity and sexuality, and expanding your horizons with drugs and politics, about human identity and sexuality.
Sexuality? That's more like bestiality, which is, let's not get into that.
Expanding your horizons with drugs instead of spaceships. And the best way to show these surreal new visions was through one of the oldest forms of media around, comics. During the 60s, the new crop of comic creators pushed all kinds of boundaries with their art. There's the 1962 sexy cosmic adventurer Barbarella. You might remember her as the objectified space babe played by Jane Fonda in the cult classic movie. And if you don't, your dad definitely does.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Oh,
And a few years later, Valerian and Laureline debuted in 1967. It's a comic about a meathead time cop named Valerian and his partner, a smart and savvy 11th century peasant girl who came back to the future with him. It's one of the most popular and influential comics in the history of science fiction, and most Americans probably have not heard of it until this summer. Star Wars in particular,
I still haven't heard of it until just this second.
Owes a lot to Valerian, from the worn down, used look of its futuristic technology
Piece of junk.
to Leia's metal bikini. But the real revolution began with metal hurlant. Metal hurlant. Metal hurlant. In French, that translates to screaming metal, but you probably know it better by the American title,
Heavy Metal.
Heavy Metal was a science fiction anthology magazine started in the 70s by a group known as the United Humanoids. It was one of the first adults-only comics. Stories were violent, surreal, and sexual. It helped change the perception of comics as a kids-only medium 10 years before Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns. Trust me, a lot of it hasn't aged well. The art is gorgeous, but there's a lot of gratuitous nudity and voluptuous women in chainmail bikinis. Basically, everything you've ever seen airbrushed on the side of a van is in this comic. And some of the stories can be straight up creepy and misogynistic. The 80s were kind of defined by excess like this, and heavy metal played a huge part in it for better or worse.
Let's leave it at that.
What do you mean?
When heavy metal came to America in 1977, it blew a lot of minds. We even got this gnarly animated movie out of it.
What's for dinner?
Animated movie out of it. Heavy metal's most important achievement was introducing America.
You know what? I never got in. I never got into any comics. Really, none. Although, in France, I remember Tintin. Tintin. Right? Tintin. I think there was a French comic book, Tintin. And I was really small, and I was always watching it. I was always looking at it, because I didn't understand one word of it. But I still loved it, looking just through the pictures and pages. And Tintin or Tintin, it's one of those. I think it was Tintin. Anyway, whatever. That's the only comic I've ever really paid attention to. And there was one in Spain too. There was one in Spain too that I forgot about. Mortadelo and Filimon and Mortadelo, something like that. Anyway, but English American comics, Superman, Spider-Man, Hulk. Nope, not one of them.
To the works of Jean Giraud, better known
Jean Giraud. I don't know, that's probably wrong.
under his pen name Mobius. After starting his career drawing Western comics, Giraud created the pseudonym Mobius to explore his new interest in science fiction. Because, let's be honest, every great Western would make a better science fiction film. With heavy metal, Mobius quickly established himself as a monster in the field of sci-fi illustration. His meticulous art was so innovative and memorable, we're still feeling its impacts today. Anime legend Hayao Miyazaki cited Mobius as a huge inspiration for his classic film Nausicaa, and the two became lifelong friends. Author William Gibson, the father of cyberpunk, and like most of what you love about The Matrix, credits Mobius for the look of the genre. You can see it in the cramped, oppressive megacities of comics like The Long Tomorrow, which clearly shaped the design of films like Blade Runner and Akira. Mobius influenced a lot of films, but he also worked directly on a bunch too. One of his most famous film projects is the unreleased Dune by French-Chilean director Alejandro Jodorowsky.
I have Moebius, who was a genius, because he was not only an artist with the incredible capacity, but he was very quick.
When the movie fell through, they turned his concept art into a sprawling space comic called The Incal. He helped design the neon world of Tron, the Imperial probe droid in The Empire Strikes Back, and did some early costume designs for Alien. Mobius even worked fucking Space Jam. I'm not kidding. His name is in the credits, right there. One film owed so much to Mobius that he even took the director to court. It's The Fifth Element.
Oh, really?
Luc Besson is probably the French filmmaker best known to modern US audiences. He became famous for his 90s crime thrillers like La Femme Nikita and The Professional.
La Femme? Did he say La Femme?
He became famous for his 90s crime thrillers like La Femme Nikita and The Professional. But he always wanted to create a sci-fi world like the ones in the comics he grew up reading. Besson actually started writing the script for The Fifth Element in 1975 when he was just 16 years old, just 1 year after the first issue of Heavy Metal. And when Mobius saw the finished product, he thought it was a little too close for comfort with his comic The Incal. But The Fifth Element isn't a Mobius ripoff any more than Star Wars is a Valerian ripoff. Sci-fi is a constantly evolving genre, and the best artists take bits and pieces from a long history of inspiration and transform it into something new and wonderful. That's why I'm so excited to see what Luc Besson does with Valerian. It's a film he's been waiting to make his whole life, and I can't wait to see this source material combined with his own unique cinema du look style. So, if you're an American science fiction fan looking for something new, you might want to check it out.
Okay, Mr. Nerd.
Hey guys, I'm Mike. I want to thank you guys so much for watching that video. I hope that, we were able to expand your cultural horizon and maybe even think about wanting to watch a couple of the movies that we referenced in this video. If you guys like this kind of deep dive and want to see us do more deep dives into specific genres of film or comic books, video games, anything like that, please let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please subscribe.
Yeah, please subscribe. Please click like. Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that. Everybody on the planet knows that. That's why I've never once, not once, in any video have I said, please subscribe. Please hit like. Anyway, Valerian, well, now I can't say the word. Valerian and the history of French science fiction. So, wow, I'm not going to lie. Props to a lot of the French there for producing what I never knew was a part of their making. Never. I mean, there's some definite movies in there that I know rather well, and there were plenty of movies in there I had zero clue, especially all the comics. I know nothing about the comics. But, hey, Mobius, Lucas, I learned a few things, and I'm sure the French people would be like, yeah, we know all about this. Of course we know about this. I don't know. Maybe even the French people will be like, oh, je savais pas ça. You never know. You never know. Take care. Peace out. Bonne nuit. À la prochaine.